Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Ba'ashem, YAHAWASHI, Ba'ashem Rucha Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to the house of David, which is the elect. And I just want to touch on this article that I came across earlier today, coming from CNBC, entitled Largest Port on U.S. East Coast, New York, New Jersey, begins prepping for what could be first union strike since 1977. Okay, and this article came out last Thursday, September 19th. Okay, and it was updated the following day, the Friday. All right, and what's interesting about this information is this is very, very major news, right? This is something that could be extremely impactful and extremely devastating to the current status quo and the current normalcy which these Americans have right now. But yet this isn't something that is being spoken about on a mass scale. You got amongst our people, they're more focused on this whole Diddy situation, right, which is nothing but a distraction. Okay, focused on the memes and the rhetoric back and forth between Kamala Harris and President or not president, but Donald Trump. Okay, which that's all just political theater. But yet there are actual things happening within the world, geoeconomically, geopolitically, and even things that are happening within America itself that people are just completely oblivious to. All right, and that is why the Lord spoke about how that day is going to come upon them as a thief, right? And it's going to come upon them in a way to where they're not going to be able to escape it, because really the only one true really way to escape these plagues is by being under the shadow of the wing of Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi, right? Being knowing the name of the Lord, right? As it says in the book of Psalms. I pull it up real quick. Psalms, the 9th chapter. Let's get that. Psalms chapter 9, verse 9, it says, the Lord Yahawah, Ba'ashem Yahawashi, also will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. See? So it's the ones that, and as it says in verse 10, and they that know thy name will put their trust in thee, for thou, Yahawah, has not forsaken them that seek thee. You see, so in the times of trouble, which the scriptures clearly, tells us over and over again, that the day of the Lord is dark, right? The day of the Lord is terrible. Troublous times are coming, perilous times shall come at the end of this world, the end of this age. So the ones of us that have the understanding to know that, yes, we're at the end of this age and what that comes with, which is trouble, there's no escaping the fact that trouble is coming upon this earth. All right. Even in the book of 2nd Ezra, the Lord tells us to measure the times diligently in themselves. See, and it's going to be the same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. And the visitation of Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi upon this world will be in his wrath, right? Will be in his anger, will be in his sore displeasure. So the only way to escape the wrath is by what? Calling upon the name of the Lord, by trusting in the name of the Lord, by doing the things that Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi finds pleasing, so that you can be exempt from the judgment, right? But what the majority of this world, they're just, as it says in the book of Proverbs, the 23rd chapter, I believe. Nope, 22nd. Proverbs 22nd chapter, verse 3. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Right. And once again, where does this prudent, which the word prudent means wise, right? Where does this wise man hide himself? Well, first, in order to be hid, right? In order to hide yourself, you got to recognize that there is something that you need to, hide from. All right. There is an impending danger that you need to escape from. And in order to recognize that, you got to be what? Wise, because it is through the wisdom of YAHAWASHI, which is the beginning of knowledge, that you're able to have foresight. Okay. You're able to have foresight. You're able to understand that the times you're living in was written aforetime to be a terrible time, right? As it says in the book of Daniel, a time like never before. Even Yahawah said that as well. So when you foresee this, which is a gift from the Most High, to be able to foresee evil, let me go into the word foreseeth, right? It's ra'ah, which means to look, to inspect, to consider, right? To observe, consider, give attention to discern, to distinguish. And this is why, starting with the prophets, why we're always looking, and giving attention to prophecy, giving attention to the spiritual details of life. Okay, because we know that when we do look afar off, when we are looking ahead, when we are upon our watchtower, that through the grace and mercy of the Lord, he will allow us to see what is coming. All right. And what is coming is only evil, bad times. All right. And it's not only just to see it, but then to also have the wisdom, have the knowledge and understanding to know how to escape it, how to hide from it. And that comes by way of what? Returning and hiding and believing in Yahawah Ba'Shem Hawashai in those names, right? Because as we read in Psalms, the 9th chapter, the Lord will be a refuge in the times of trouble. But it says, but the simple pass on and are punished, meaning what? Let's get that in a different translation. It says, a prudent person foresees dangers and takes precaution, right? And the precautions that we're taking is once again, given all diligence to make our calling and election sure, so that we can be found worthy to escape. It says the simpleton, right? The distracted, the sottish, the stupid, right? The foolish. Okay, the ones that are caught up with the affairs of this world, they're entangled with the affairs of this world, goes blindly on and suffers the consequences, because at the end of the day, the consequences are going to be had, right? You're not going to be able to escape the consequences of your ignorance, right? This world tells you that ignorance is bliss. That's a lie, all right? And even if it is, that's only a temporary bliss. That's only a temporary, state that you're in, because the Most High is adamant about everybody being full of the knowledge of him. Okay. And the ones of us that got the knowledge of the Lord through this grace period, through this time where the Lord has had mercy, where we had liberty, they are the ones that are going to escape it. But the ones that were, use this, as it says in Psalm, 2nd Esdras, the 9th chapter, when they had liberty, they loathed his ways. You're still going to have to deal with the recognition of Yahawah Ba'Shem Hawashai. But the way that you're going to recognize the Lord is going to be through your terror, all right, through your calamity, through your distress, through your anguish. That is why it says in Proverbs, when your anguish, when your calamity comes upon you as a whirlwind, Proverbs 1 verse, let's go to the point, verse 27, it says, when your fear cometh as desolation and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me. See, that's when you're going to want to recognize the Lord. that's when you're going to want to be, known of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. But it says what? But I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. You see? So now you're just going to have to deal with the consequences of reality at that point. And the reality is going to be what? Devastating, deadly. All right. It's going to be a deadly reality that you're going to be living in. And there's going to be no way for you to escape it. There's going to be no way for you to try to lighten the load, because this is coming from the Heavenly Father, Ba'ashim Yahawashi himself. All right. So let's get into this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just highlight some key points here. It says, Port of New York, New Jersey executives tell CNBC they have begun preparations for a potential complete work stoppage by the International Longshoresmen Association, the largest North American union for maritime workers. The ILA represents more than 85,000 longshoresmen, and a strike would shut down 5 of the 10. Oh, Salakia. Go back here. Will shut down. I'm reading right here. 5 of the 10 busiest ports in North America. A total of 36 ports along the East and Gulf coast. So let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Okay. So it says will shut down 5 of the 10 busiest ports of North America, a total of 36 ports along the East and Gulf coasts on October 1st, which is a week away from today. All right. So that will be next Tuesday. Excuse me. Between 43 and 49% of all U.S. imports and billions of dollars in trade monthly are at stake as the union moves closer to the October 1st deadline for a new contract. Cruise operations would continue. Talks with port ownerships broke down over the summer, and it remains unclear how much progress, if any, is being made. The ILA rank and file recently voted unanimously to authorize a strike, and the group, which represents port management, the United States Maritime Alliance, recently stated that it believes the union has already made the decision to strike. Okay, so they already have it in their mind that they're going to strike come October 1st. And if they strike, as we just said, is over 85,000 people, is going to shut down 5 of the 10 busiest ports, which will represent about 36 ports in the Eastern Gulf coast, which represents about almost 50% of all U.S. imports, between 43 and 49. So that is a lot of cargo, a lot of goods and services that is going to be impacted. And once again, as we always say, when you go to your stores, whether it be your Walmarts, your Targets, your Whole Foods, your Starbucks, right, your supermarkets, the products that are in those stores do not magically appear there. There's a whole supply chain system that is involved in order to get those goods on those shelves for the consumer, aka you, to be able to purchase them. And it starts with this right here. Okay, it starts with the importing of these goods and services to the coasts of America, right? And the East Coast, actually, if I'm not mistaken, has the largest port in all of the United States. You can fact check that, but I believe I seen this back during when the lockdowns happened and they were talking about the ports. I remember hearing them say that the East Coast is the largest ports, has the largest ports of America and the most traffic. Okay. So reading on, it says, Beth Rooney, port director of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey told CNBC on Thursday that individual ocean carriers and terminal operators are announcing their ramping down of operations to avoid a pileup of containers. The Port of New York, New Jersey has been involved in discussions with ocean carriers and terminal operators about managing cargo leading up to an interruption, appropriate measures are in place to complete cargo movement off the terminals before any shutdown. A number of ocean carriers have announced their plans in terms of embargoing export cargo coming to the East Coast from the Midwest. So the further afield that the cargo might be coming down to us from within the hinterland, the earlier that would be embargoed. If there is a strike and operations cease, the vessels would either wait in a designated area or slow steam as they did during the CV to delay their arrival. Once the strike is over, and that could be, who knows how long? Because remember, all these things is the Lord strategically breaking down Babylon the Great. All right. These are plagues, just like during the time of ancient Egypt, where the Lord would plague the cattle. He would plague the water supply, right? He plagued, the people. All those things ultimately affected the status and the quality of life in Babylon. All right. Although they also, the Lord, also was sending those plagues to also mock those gods of the Egyptians, but it also had an actual real effect on the quality of life and the economy in Egypt. And similarly, as we know that this is spiritual Egypt, right? Spiritual Sodom and Egypt, the Lord is doing the same thing here. Okay, the quality of life, the standard of living, the Lord is attacking. Okay, and these plagues are the way that the Lord is doing that, because you still got the plagues of these pestilences, which also is affecting, the food pricing, right? The availability of certain foods. But here you have now the actual importing of goods and services are being affected. And as we know, America is the number one country in imports. Okay, meaning they're the number one country they're the top country that imports goods from other countries around the world. And that is why in the book of Revelation, it talks about how the merchants of the sea standing afar off will be wailing, right, when they see the destruction of Babylon the Great, saying that no man can, buy their merchandise anymore. You see? So reading on, it says, let's jump around. It says in a recent blog, Jim, Vice President of North American Service Transportation at C.H. Robinson, wrote that not only U.S. companies and suppliers would be impacted, but also supply chains across Europe, Oceania, Latin America, and Asia. You see that? Going back to what I just talked about, the merchants, of the sea. Actually, let me pull it up since I spoke about it. Revelation, the 18th chapter. And this is, another clue, right, on how we know that Babylon the Great is speaking about America, because there is no other country that imports more goods than America. So when you hear or when we read how these merchants, right, which the merchants are companies that, come from other countries that, sell their goods and services to America, which ultimately benefits their economy because they're getting that American dollar, right? And they're getting money coming from outside of the country. It's kind of like when you go outside of the state, let's say you're from New Jersey and you drive outside of New Jersey, it's more likely that when you get pulled over, you're going to get a ticket if you're in Pennsylvania or Delaware or Maryland, because when you have to pay that ticket, that money is going to that state. It's coming from the state of New Jersey, aka your pockets, right? Where you get paid from, where you live, and you're paying the money to where for that ticket to wherever state you got that ticket in. So that's just a revenue coming in. That's a surplus of money coming in. So likewise, when these countries import their goods to America, and America buys their product because they're going to sell it to the consumers, aka the Americans, that money going back to their countries is a surplus of money coming into their economy, which is boosting up their country and their country's economy. All right. So that is why when we read here, let's go verse 11 in Revelation 18. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. See, because when America gets destroyed, it's not only going to just disrupt the American, trade system. It's going to disrupt the whole entire country, whole entire world's trade system. Okay, it's not like after the day that America gets destroyed, you're still going to have China and India doing business with each other. No, everything's going to be shut down. A total collapse of trade, foreign trade, importing, exporting, all that's going to stop. But the place where these countries get their most money from is America. So reading on, it says, we could skip that because it just talks about the various different things that they sell. But I want to go to the point. Verse 15, it says, the merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. See that? And saying, at last, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors, and as were many as trade by the sea, stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? Okay, I'll get one more. Verse 19, and they cast dust on their heads, meaning that they were sorrowful, right? They were crying, and these merchants, they are going to be crying because, once again, as I just gave the explanation, these countries and their companies, they get rich off of selling their goods to America, right? It says, and cried and weeping and wailing, saying, at last, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour she is made desolate. Okay, let's see that in a different translation. It says in the NLT, and they will weep and throw dust on their heads to show their grief, and they will cry out, how terrible for that great city. The ship owners became wealthy by transporting her great wealth on the seas. In a single moment, it is all gone. See? And NIV says, where all who had ships on the seas became rich through her wealth. In 1 hour, she has been brought to ruins. Okay? So that right there illustrates the devastation that America is going to, go through, right? The great destruction, and how it's going to affect the whole global trade operation and system. But this right here, right? This this strike is something that in the near future, right, is going to have a major effect on the economy and the status, of people here in America, because this can lead to famine, right? It's going to lead to a famine, because if they're not, constantly bringing in these ships And you got, and you know, and they got the containers and the ships out in the ocean, but there's nobody on the ports to take them in, okay, to load them off, to off the ships, to undock them, then to have, you know, the you know, working the machinery to take out the goods off of the pallets, and then to put them into the trucks. And then if there's nobody to do that, all these goods is worthless. And don't be surprised if people get to the desperation point where, because some of these ships might be actually docked, right? But actually, you know what? I'll have to retract that, because they showed that in during the lockdown, that a lot of these ships, they weren't even docked at the port, right? Over in the West Coast, they were docked like a couple, you know, hundreds of feet, maybe, you know, hundreds of feet off of the dock. And there was like a big, you know, just a hundreds of ships with containers just all out in the ocean, you know, just not able to actually come into the port. So reading back, it says, let's see. It says the Biden administration said it will not invoke. Let's see here, for example. Actually, I'll read this one. It says, while the APAC region typically has more options to shift freight to the West Coast, over half of the automotive freight coming in today is heavily dependent on the East Coast. For example, the Germany to Charleston and Savannah corridor is crucial for European automakers, which would be shut down in the event of a strike. Currently, there are only two container service loops operating between Europe and the U.S. West Coast. It says the Biden administration said it would not invoke powers under the Taft-Hartley Act to force union members to go back to work. At first reported by the CNBC, and urged the parties to remain to the bargaining table. So the Biden administration basically is saying that they're not going to enforce this act to make union members go back to work. And actually, workers said in the same article, they said that even if they did do that and they were forced to go back to work, they would just work slower to still cause a disruption. Okay. But there was another piece of information, another paragraph I wanted to get. Okay, yeah, here. It says fears of supply chain congestion. Congestion levels are already being forecast by the maritime industry. Sea Intelligence has estimated a one-day strike by the ILA would take 5 days to clear. So just 1 day of striking would take 5 days to clear the port. A 1 week strike in October can cause slowdowns until mid-November. So if they strike from the 1st to the 8th, that will cause a backup of shipments, ships, and containers to last until mid-November. So that would be over a month worth of you know, backup and congestion. And remember, the congestion it will have a direct impact on what you are able to get within your stores, because the thing about the supply chain, it has to constantly be moving. Okay, if there's a stop in the supply chain, then the product that is already in the stores, once that goes away, because they say that, you know, the product in stores only lasts about 3 days. If it's not replenished within 3 days, then everything is empty. There's no, and you know, there's no restocking those things. So if it lasted just 1 week, then it's going to take 6 weeks, right? You know, over a month to be able to replenish the supplies that were already out in these stores. And 2 weeks would take you into January because of the congestion of ships and the backup of containers. And once again, who knows how long this strike will last. All right, we just have to wait and see. But just a 2-week strike would cause backup and cause, you know, a congestion all the way up until January. So that's October, November, December, January, 3 months, right? So imagine 3 months of a limited supply of food, limited supply of clothes, lumber, car parts, right? And then that's when they would have to go into doing what? Rationing. And when you start to ration things, especially in a place like America where people are just accustomed to having a surplus, imagine going from having a surplus of stuff to within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, now you have to live based off of rationing things. And then on top of that, you're not even being mentally prepared for that transition, because that's the majority of people in America. They're not even mentally prepared. They don't even have the idea of something like this happening. So that's why when the scripture says in the book of second, was that First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, but when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Sudden destruction. Okay. And the sudden destruction really is based off of your perception and your awareness. Because to us that are in the know, right, we don't see this as sudden destruction. We've been waiting for this. We've been seeing this afar off. So when it actually does take place, we are already mentally, spiritually prepared for this, and have our hope in YAHAWASHI to deliver us from these times. Whereas majority of the world, wicked, the 2/3 of our people here in America, they have no clue. They're, as it says, they're like being in the darkness and being asleep. You are completely oblivious, completely unaware of your surroundings and what is happening, which is why, going back to the word foreseeth, they're not giving attention to these things that are taking place. And that is what's going to be the reason why it's going to come upon them suddenly. Okay. Going to the second Ezra chapter 16. Let's go to 18. It says, let's start at 17. It says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils, right? We're in the evil times. And what shall I do when these evils shall come? See, that's the question. That's the question everybody's going to be asking themselves. What do I do in these bad times? How do I escape it? Right? But the water, Yahweh Ba'Shem for giving us the light to see, for giving us the ISLAV and the understanding to know what do we have to do is to hold fast what we have, to have faith in Yahweh Ba'Shem, right? To keep your mind, stayed upon him, and he will keep us in perfect peace. Verse 19, behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals, goods, shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in a good case. Even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Excuse me. Okay, so that right there is a description of what the up and coming times, up and coming days, weeks are going to look like. All right, and we are, sent to, send out this warning so that the elect can hear this word, repent, and be able to be delivered from the times to come. But it all starts with what? Having faith in the name of Yahweh Ba'Shem YAHAWASHI. All right. That's why it says in the book of Isaiah, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding shall be the stability of thy times. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. Okay. The fear of the Lord is our treasure. All right. And don't ever forget that. And don't take that lightly. All right, not the treasures of this world, not the riches of this world, because as it says in the book of Proverbs, that riches profiteth not in the day of evil, but righteousness delivereth from death. Okay, so um that's, like I said, that was pretty much it. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but that part right here was the key to this, man. All right, just in 1 week we're going to see what happens if they don't strike a deal before October 1st, which is next week. Then they said that they're already prepared to go on strike, and if this strike lasts just only 2 weeks, there's going to be a problem. It's going to be problematic for 3 months out. Okay, and that's if it, like I said, that's only if it goes for 2 weeks. Okay, so last scripture, because I was just reading it here, so let me pull it up. Back in 2nd Ezra 16, verse 37, it says, "Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slacked, as when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth pains, great pains compass her womb, which pains when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment." So that's an analogy, right? The Lord is equating the plagues like a woman giving birth, meaning once the birth pains start, they don't stop, they don't slack a moment. And that is what the Lord is showing us, that with these plagues, and if you've been paying attention, right, various different avenues, different ways, the Lord has been consistently plaguing this world, all right, with wars, with pestilences, with racial tensions, political tensions, all right, economic problems, okay, supply chain issues. All these things it can spell catastrophe for life, for just a simple going from one day to the next. Reading on, it says, "So even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and the sorrows shall come upon it on every side. O my people, hear my word." All right, and that's only going to be the elect, the remnant of Jacob. "Make you ready to thy battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth." So don't be attached to the things of this world, because the ones who are attached are going to end up like Lot's wife. Okay, the fashions of this world are fading away, so you have to be in a mindset to be ready to lose everything, because all of these things are temporary anyway. None of these things are going to survive the end of this age. Hell, even our own bodies, Lord willing, we are part of the elect. Our own vessels are not going to be brought into the kingdom. So how much more of your car or your house or your gold, your silver, your money? None of those things are going to make it. All right. Only thing that's going to make it is your faith. Okay, your diligence, right, in serving Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi. That is your treasure. That treasure is what's going to transition from this world to the next. Okay, so Lord willing, this was edifying unto the elect, giving all praises to Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash. Shalom.